Hoa Karen laughed at his old uniform and mocked the man wearing it, but 1 hour later, 6 Navy SEALs pulled up outside and everything changed. This isn't just about a veteran being disrespected. It's about honor, brotherhood, and a moment that silenced a town. Before we start the story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Hoa Karen sat at her usual table at the Riverdale Diner, the morning sunlight streaming through the windows as she sipped her coffee. The 45-year-old woman prided herself on maintaining order in the small community. With her perfectly styled hair and designer handbag, she considered herself the unofficial guardian of local standards. When the door opened with a gentle chime, Hoa's attention immediately shifted. An elderly man walked in slowly, his steps careful but deliberate. What caught her eye wasn't his age but what he wore, a navy uniform so worn and dirty it made Hoa scrunch her nose in disgust. "Would you look at that?" Hoa said loudly to her friend Melanie. "Someone should tell him that's disrespectful. You don't wear a uniform that looks like it's been dragged through mud." The elderly man, Marcus Harris, was 76 years old. He lived alone in a modest house at the edge of town since his wife Sarah passed away 2 years ago. They had been married for almost 5 decades, sharing a quiet and humble life together. Today was special for Marcus. It marked the anniversary of a critical mission during his service, one that had saved many lives but left deep scars on his heart and mind. Wearing his old uniform was his personal tribute to the brothers he had lost. Marcus had gotten up early that morning. He carefully took his Navy SEAL uniform from the closet where it had hung for years. The fabric was faded and worn in places with a small tear on one sleeve. Time hadn't been kind to the material, but the memories it held remained vivid and important. He looked at himself in the mirror before leaving home. The uniform didn't fit quite like it used to, his body had changed with age, but the pride he felt wearing it remained unchanged. Today wasn't about looking perfect, it was about remembering. As Marcus made his way to his usual booth near the window, Hoa pulled out her phone and started recording. "Hey everyone, look what we have here," she narrated, pointing her camera at Marcus. "This man thinks it's okay to disrespect our military by wearing this filthy rag he calls a uniform. Someone should teach him about respect." The video continued as Hoa zoomed in on the frayed edges of his uniform and the faded patches. Her friends laughed along, some even taking their own pictures. Soon, several other patrons were staring and whispering. "Excuse me," Hoa called out to Marcus from across the diner. "Don't you think you should change into something more appropriate? That uniform is a disgrace." Marcus looked up slowly, his weathered face calm despite the humiliation. He said nothing, only nodded politely before returning his gaze to the menu. The waitress who approached his table seemed uncomfortable, caught between serving a customer and being aware of Hoa's disapproving glare. She took Marcus's order, coffee and toast, with barely concealed impatience. "Don't waste too much time on him, Darlene," Hoa called out. "He clearly doesn't care about appearances." Marcus sat quietly, his hands, strong despite his age, rested on the table. They were the hands that had once carried wounded comrades through enemy territory, hands that had comforted dying friends, hands that had written letters to families of those who didn't return. A young boy approached Marcus's table, curious about the uniform and the medals partly hidden beneath the jacket's worn fabric. The child's mother quickly pulled him away, embarrassed. "Don't bother the man, Timmy," she said, glancing apologetically at Marcus. Hoa's video had already been posted to social media with a caption reading, "Shame on this man for disrespecting our military with this dirty uniform. #NoRespect, #disgrace to the uniform." The waitress returned with Marcus's coffee but not his food. She seemed distracted, her attention divided between her tasks and the growing tension in the diner. "Is everything all right?" Marcus asked her gently. "Fine," she replied curtly. "Kitchen's backed up." But Marcus noticed how she lingered at Hoa's table, chatting and laughing as if there was no rush at all. He said nothing, sipping his coffee slowly, his mind drifting to memories of his team, men who had become closer than brothers. After waiting 30 minutes for food that never arrived, Marcus left money on the table for the coffee and stood to leave. His movements were dignified despite the whispers and stares that followed him. As he walked toward the door, Hoa stepped directly into his path. "Maybe next time show some respect and clean up before you pretend to be a hero," she said, her phone still recording. Marcus looked at her, his blue eyes clear and steady. "Respect isn't about appearances, ma'am," he said quietly. "It's about understanding sacrifices you've never had to make." With that, he stepped around her and walked out into the morning sunshine. He stood under the diner's awning, the slight breeze carrying the scent of rain. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, promising a storm later in the day. Marcus didn't leave immediately. Instead, he stood outside, straight back despite his years, waiting. He checked his watch occasionally, seemingly expecting something or someone. Inside, Hoa was triumphant, showing the other patrons the video that was quickly gathering comments online. Someone needed to say something, she insisted. You can't just walk around looking like that and expect respect. Most nodded along, though a few seemed uncomfortable with the situation. One older woman, Rose Miller, who had been quietly eating her breakfast, finally spoke up. My husband served in Vietnam, she said, her voice soft but firm. And he would never judge another veteran by the condition of his uniform. Hoa dismissed her with a wave. Times have changed. Standards matter. The hour passed slowly. The rain began to fall, light at first then growing steadier. Marcus remained outside, seemingly unbothered by the weather. Occasionally someone would glance out the window at him, but most were focused on their meals or conversations. At precisely 10:45 a.m., the sound of powerful engines cut through the patter of rainfall. 3 black SUVs with government plates pulled up sharply in front of the diner, their tires sending sprays of water across the pavement. The diner fell silent as the doors of the vehicles opened simultaneously. 6 men in crisp, immaculate Navy SEAL dress uniforms stepped out, moving with military precision. They formed a line in front of Marcus, who straightened even further, his posture shifting instinctively into attention. The lead SEAL, a commander judging by his insignia, saluted Marcus sharply. The other 5 followed in perfect synchronization. Marcus returned the salute, his weathered hand steady at his brow. Inside the diner, conversation stopped mid-sentence. Forks paused halfway to mouths. Hoa's phone, which had been recording continuously, nearly slipped from her suddenly loose grip. The commander stepped forward and embraced Marcus in a respectful hug before turning toward the diner. His expression was serious as he opened the door and entered, followed by Marcus and the other SEALs. The commander's voice filled the small space. Is the owner of this establishment present? The manager, a nervous man named Greg, stepped forward from behind the counter. That's me. How can I help you, gentlemen? The commander gestured to Marcus. This man is Command Master Chief Marcus Harris, retired. One of the most decorated Navy SEALs in the history of our program. 30 years ago today, he led a mission that saved 27 hostages and the lives of every man in his unit, including mine. The silence in the diner was absolute. Master Chief Harris received the Navy Cross for his actions that day. He suffered 3 gunshot wounds while carrying 2 injured teammates to safety and still managed to coordinate the extraction that saved everyone else. The commander's gaze swept the diner, lingering momentarily on Hoa, who had gone pale. Every year on this day, those of us who can gather to honor him and remember the brothers we lost. We meet here because this is where Master Chief's wife loved to have breakfast before cancer took her 2 years ago. The commander turned to Marcus. Your uniform, sir. It's the same one you wore that day, isn't it? Marcus nodded. Yes. I promised the men who didn't come home that I would wear it once a year to remember them. It's not pretty anymore, but neither were those days. One of the younger SEALs stepped forward, holding a small wooden box. He opened it to reveal a gleaming medal on a blue ribbon. Command Master Chief Harris, the commander announced formally, the administrative error that delayed this honor has finally been corrected. On behalf of a grateful nation, I present you with this silver star for valor above and beyond the call of duty. He pinned the medal carefully to Marcus's worn uniform, the new decoration stark against the faded fabric. The stains on this uniform, the commander said, turning back to the silent diner patrons, are from the blood of heroes and the mud of a battlefield where brave men fought so others could live freely, including to criticize what they don't understand. The pointed statement hung in the air as his gaze once again found Hoa, who was frantically trying to delete the video from her phone and social media. An older SEAL approached Hoa's table. Ma'am, I believe you were recording earlier. I'd appreciate a copy of that video for our annual remembrance ceremony. It would mean a lot to have footage of the Master Chief in his original uniform. Hoa's face flushed deep red. I think I deleted it by accident, she stammered. That's unfortunate, he replied, his tone making it clear he didn't believe her. Perhaps next time you'll ask about someone's story before making judgments. The manager, Greg, was profusely apologizing to Marcus and the SEALs. Your breakfast is on the house, sir. All of you. In fact, from now on, veterans eat free at this establishment every day of the week. Marcus shook his head gently. That's not necessary. Just treating everyone with respect is enough. The SEALs arranged themselves at tables near Marcus, their presence commanding respect without a word being spoken. The diner slowly returned to its normal buzz of conversation, though noticeably quieter and more subdued. Hoa sat frozen, her coffee growing cold. The friends who had laughed with her earlier now avoided meeting her eyes. When she finally stood to leave, she had to walk past Marcus's table to reach the door. She paused, struggling to find words. "I'm sorry," she finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Marcus looked up at her, his eyes neither angry nor triumphant, just calmly observant. "It's easy to judge what we don't understand," he said. "The hard part is admitting when we're wrong." Hoa nodded once, unable to meet his gaze any longer, and hurried out. In the weeks that followed, the diner underwent changes. A wall of honor was created near Marcus's usual booth, displaying photos of local veterans and active service members. The incident became a turning point for the community, a lesson in looking beyond appearances and respecting the invisible burdens many veterans carry. As for Hoa Karen, the experience changed her. The humiliation of that day was painful, but it taught her that true respect isn't about policing others' appearances but understanding their journeys. Marcus continued to wear his old uniform once a year, but now when he entered the diner on that solemn anniversary, he was met not with mockery but with standing respect from the patrons who had learned the power of looking beyond the surface. And every year, right on schedule, the SUVs would arrive and the SEALs, his brothers in arms, would join him, honoring promises made long ago on a battlefield far away, where the only thing that mattered was the man beside you, not the condition of his uniform.